Hello world and welcome to my writing thoughts. I'm Tumi and today I want to talk about supporting characters. We all know what a main character is or what a protagonist is. They're the characters central to our stories. They're the ones who are moved along in the plot or who the plot moves along, who the final events and all central conflicts revolve around. But the main character cannot go through the story on his or her own. The main character cannot make things happen on their own and cannot go through life on their own. Just like in real life, you are the main character of your story and you cannot go through the story by yourself. You need a supporting cast behind you. In the same way, your main character needs some supporting characters behind him or her. So I want to talk about the different type of supporting characters your main character can have behind them and how they can help enhance and improve the story, as well as how they can help flesh the story out more and make it better and more enjoyable for your readers. One type of supporting character that I love and that is very important is the secondary character. This character is the second in command to the main character, or this is the best friend of the main character. Sometimes they're even a love interest. Sometimes they're all these things in one. The supporting character helps the main character stay grounded, helps the main character get along in their journey. They often accompany them, they often encourage them, uplift them, they often help them become who they were always meant to be. Sometimes the main character only is who he is because he had the support of his secondary character. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, the secondary character is Katara. She acts as den mother to the group. She acts as Aang's best friend. She eventually becomes his girlfriend and eventually even becomes his wife. In the desert episode, when everyone is stranded in the desert, where Sokka was hopping on cactus juice and Toph couldn't see because she's blind and the ground was all shifty and unreadable, and Aang was completely broken down and despondent, Katara was the one who held everybody together. Katara was the one who helped them get through the desert. She was the only one who held on to hope, and she was the only one who took the leading role in that episode in moving everybody along. This is an example of how a secondary character can be there to do the things that the main character can't do. The secondary character can pick things up when the main character is low. The secondary character can do the things that the main character cannot do, or maybe things that the main character won't do. The secondary character is here to fill in the roles that the main character cannot fill in, either because of personality, or either because of his values, or either because he is the main character and this isn't a typical thing that the main character does. The secondary character can also have his or her own arc in the story. Sometimes this arc is used to enhance or complements the main storyline, even if it isn't central to the main story. This arc can also help flesh out the secondary character. It can help flesh out the secondary character's relationship with the other characters in the story, and this can also help this character grow as a person. In Avatar, again, we see in Katara's arcs how she dealt with the death of her mother, how she confronted her mother's killer, and how she also went from a so-so waterbender to a master, to eventually teaching Aang because of what she learned, and we also get to see how she deals with her culture and with her thoughts on all the conflicts of the World War in this universe. Another great example of secondary characters are in the dynamic of Harry, Ron and Hermione. Ron and Hermione being the secondary characters to Harry Potter. Hermione is the intelligent one. She's the one who's book smart in the story. She's the one who usually has ideas. Because of her book smartness and because of her intuitiveness and her great ideas and also her emotional intelligence, she is often the one who comes up with ideas, who helps Ron and Harry understand the emotions of girls, and she is often the one to come to conclusions and make deductions that Ron and Harry cannot come to on their own whenever they are making investigations throughout the books. Ron Weasley, on the other hand, is the one who knows about the wizarding world. Out of Harry, Ron and Hermione, Ron is the only one who actually grew up in the wizarding world. So he actually knows what that world is like. He understands the culture, he understands the customs. And since his father also works for the Ministry of Magic, Ron is also the one who actually understands how the government works the most out of the three of them. Hermione's book smarts can only get her so far, because while she knows what the world is like through books, Ron knows what the world is like through experience. And so there are times when, in terms of wizardry stuff and how the people act and interact, Ron is usually the smartest person in this respect, and in times like this, he's the one who informs Harry and Hermione so that they can make the decisions they need to make. One classic example of this is how when Draco Malfoy calls Hermione a mudblood for the first time, Harry and Hermione have no idea what that means, and so they're pretty much unfazed. But every other wizard, including Ron, knows exactly what Draco means when he calls Hermione a mudblood, and so he and every other wizard who grew up in the wizarding world is understandably very upset, very offended, very ticked off that Draco would even use this word. A great example of this, I guess, would be the word coloured. In South Africa, a coloured person is a person of mixed race. Oh, for those of you who don't know, I am a South African. I should just probably throw that in there. So, in South Africa, a coloured person is a person of mixed race. It's not a derogatory word here. It's not a bad word. It's not something that you call somebody and they get offended by. But in other parts of the world, the word coloured is a derogatory term used for black people. I'm guessing especially in the United States. If a person from the US were to come to South Africa and hear the word coloured thrown around, they could be very offended and very put off that this word is used to refer to other people, not knowing that this is actually an okay word to use here, because we're not using it the way it's used on your side of the world. In the same context, this Ron bridges the gap between the wizarding world and the muggle world for Harry and Hermione. Now, another type of character who can be just as important to the, well, not as important, but very important to the story is your tertiary character. This is the third most important character in the story. They don't have as much character development as the main character and as the secondary character. They don't have as much presence in the story, but their presence is still important, and they still have an important impact to the main character's arc. Your tertiary character might be a mentor character who teaches the protagonist and who educates them and who molds them into the hero they're meant to be. They are not around in every single page. Maybe they're around a third of the time, or maybe they have quite a few recurring roles, much more recurring roles than a side character would have, and each time they appear, they have a huge impact on the story, but they are not usually along for the hero's journey. They're not usually along for the ride, but they still help the character grow. Uncle Iroh in Avatar: The Last Airbender would count as a tertiary character in terms of his interaction with Team Avatar. He's mainly there to support Zuko, but there have also been times when he's been there to support other characters in the story. Another mentor character would be Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. Well, he is a mentor character, but he also serves role as a tertiary character. He is hugely important to these books. He is hugely important to how things move along, but he is not central to the story. He is important to Harry as a person, and he is somebody Harry relies to and learns from and leans on in many big ways, and he is hugely influential in the wizarding world. But we don't get to see that much of Dumbledore in the story. We don't get to see that many interactions between Dumbledore and Harry. For a majority of the book, Harry's interactions are with Ron and Hermione and with the other teachers in the school. And with Dumbledore, he has his interactions with him after huge things go down, like Arthur Weasley being attacked by a snake, or after every time Harry almost dies in these books. And the most interaction we see between Harry and Dumbledore is in book 6, where Dumbledore personally makes it his mission to educate Harry in Voldemort's past. This was important in understanding in understanding the story forward in the seventh book. Without Dumbledore's education of Harry in the sixth book, we would have no context for the second book. So tertiary characters, while not being as important as the primary and secondary characters, still add so much meat and substance to your story and still give it so much more than the main character and the secondary characters could on their own. And then you've got a bunch of other characters below this primary, secondary, and tertiary characters that still add a lot of support to the story. Of course, you've got your side characters who are usually one-note characters who have maybe one or two personality traits who just add a little more flesh, a little more flavor to your story, but ultimately don't contribute that much. But then you've got a whole bunch of supporting characters who show up maybe every few chapters, or who show up once or twice every book, or once or twice every couple of episodes, and each time they show up, they add something of value to the character's arc, and then they're gone and put on the shelf until they're needed again. Sometimes family members can serve the purpose of secondary, tertiary, or slightly less important character in the story, depending on how you've written them. Just like in your own life, you have family members who hugely impact your development and who hugely impact how you move forward, and you'd never make a decision without consulting them. Whereas you have other family members who you only see in the holidays, and who, while you enjoy having them around and while they're fun to be with, they don't have as huge an impact on your life. You need to consider these things when you're designing your characters. There are characters in your stories that are going to have huge importance in the story. There are characters who are going to have not as big an impact or as big a role in your story, but who will still be vital in moving it along, because your primary and your secondary characters cannot do everything on their own. And then you're going to have characters who are just there, who just exist to make the world more believable, who exist to make the world more real, but who will not always make the story better in terms of the main plot, but who, through providing a great foundation in your world building, make the main plot more important, make the main plot more vital. I mean, if your story is a save the world story, having a huge cast of side characters gives the main character people to think of, and people who will generally be impacted by the world-ending events. Suddenly the main character isn't just ending the world because the whole world is in danger, but because he actually knows a whole cast of people by name who he has to save and who will die if he doesn't do his duty. So yeah, I'm not sure how to end this, but that is just a brief rundown on the different types of supporting characters you can have in a story. I hope this is helpful. I hope that this helps you better structure your characters, and this helps you better decide how to use the different characters in your story, and I also hope this helps you understand that not every single character you create needs a heavy backstory. Not every single character you create needs an ironclad purpose in your story. Sometimes side characters can be given unexpectedly good arcs in future books. This has been done with Historia Race. I love how she just seemed like this unsuspecting character in the first season of Attack on Titan, when she was known as Crystal Lens, but then suddenly she had a big role to play in the first half of the third season of Attack on Titan. That was totally unexpected. And Sun Wukong and Ruby, when he also appeared, I thought he would be a side character, maybe a supporting character at most. And he ended up being a very vital supporting character to Blake Belladonna. So there are many, many ways you can use the supporting characters. Your supporting characters offer you a great deal more flexibility than your protagonist might offer you because he's the hero. Your supporting character can give you a huge range of personalities to use that you cannot use in your main character. In other words, your supporting characters can offer you a lot of fun on top of offering you a lot more substance to your story. So I guess I should end this before I start training off some more. Have a great life and happy writing.